All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another week of A Sip of Knowledge with Marty Duffy, Liz Rhodes, and Lew Bryson, as always. Plus, this week's special guest, Kirby Kallas-Lewis, out there in Seattle. I'll let your host give a more formal introduction to Kirby in just a moment. Real quick, before I turn things over to them, as always, I'm Will Hookinga from Zavvi.co. Just want to point out a few ways that you can interact with your hosts and their guests throughout the show today. So to your right, you will see a chat box. Feel free to say hello. Let us know where you're joining us from in the world. Always nice to see that. If you have a question at any point during the show, there's a little button at the bottom that says Ask a Question on it. And that is the right one to click if you have a question. So just type it in there, send it on over. I'll be keeping an eye out for those throughout the show. And last but not least, feel free to invite your friends to join us. There's a share button at the top that makes that easy. But with all that said, Marty, Liz, Lew, the floor is yours now.
Thanks there, Will. You're the best. And remember what the constipated mathematician did? Got a pencil and worked it out. Boom.
It's better than a calculator.
Oh, yeah. Ouch. Ouchie. Hi, everybody. My name is Martin Duffy. I have a nosebleed. It just started. That's how excited I am to have this guy on. That really happens. So I'm a former senior master of whiskey for DIAGEO. Spent 18 glorious months as the sole national brand ambassador for Benedictine. Will just bought a bottle. Took a year.
It's working.
I'm still selling it years later.
I'll be sipping on that for a while.
So sticky, he says. I told you so. 8 years as the co-producer of the Chicago Independent Spirit Expo. And next month will mark my 7th year as the sole brand representative for all of North America. So Kirby, Seattle, but I have to go north into the Rockies.
All right.
And sell this also to the Inuit people. So there you go. That's what you got, Lizard.
Thanks, Marty. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm Liz Rhodes, technical distiller and spirit consultant. I have just over a decade of experience across alcoholic beverage, including a number of substrates and products and spirits like beer, rum, vodka. But hey, my particular favorite and expertise, of course, is in whiskey. I spent most of my career at a tiny little mom and pop known as DIAGEO, but now I'm currently founder and principal at Spirit Safe Consulting. And hey, want to learn a little bit more about what I have going on there? If you scroll down to the About the Host section, there's actually a link to my website. Click on it, visit it, check it out. Lew?
Thank you, Liz. I'm Lew Bryson. I am a drinks writer, mostly focused on whiskey these days, and I'm plugging my book, Whiskey Masterclass.
Who isn't?
Thank you. Indeed. Came out last year, obviously completely still in date and will be forever, so buy plenty for your friends. I was the managing editor of Whisky Advocate Magazine for 20 years, after which I took an extended leave of absence, which will never be over, and I am now a senior drinks writer for the Daily Beast, and hopefully working on another book real soon. Got a proposal in, and I will reveal all when that comes. When that's doing.
Awesome.
Yeah. Today I am drinking Fistful of Bourbon from the Grant Company, a blend of 5 straight bourbons at 90 proof and with a whole lot of odd Western branding. I don't know what that cowboy stuff is about, but cheers.
It's full of dollars. Fistful of bourbon.
Yeah, oh yeah, I know, but it just seems weird coming from the Grant family. I don't know.
Well, God bless you. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in again this week. And this week, we have a very special guest all the way from the great Northwest of the United States. And no, it's not Bigfoot or Sasquatch. I don't know. Kirby, you can tell us what you natives usually call the fella. This man is, I'm pretty sure I did some research. I'm pretty sure is the love child of Charlie Callas and Jerry Lewis from back when they had that TV show together in the 80s, thus the hyphenated name. And he is the owner and distiller of Oola Distillery in Seattle. Kirby, welcome.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's so nice to be on this. I mean, getting the word out is really important to us, so I really appreciate what you all are doing with us.
Yeah, well, this ain't gonna help you.
Good thing.
Very, very small. No. We got a nice reach. We have a nice reach.
Yeah, we reach the best people, the very best influential people.
You'll see we'll have a lot of folks from different parts of the world, which is very cool. I appreciate that. So Kirby, I've been to your distillery. It's great. It's very cool. Right now, the hip part of Seattle. Mm-hmm. But now, you're a Midwestern boy. How the heck did you go all the way out to the very edge of the continent? I mean, if you went any further, you'd be wearing a deep diving helmet. What got you to go there and get into the booze business?
Well, I think initially it was a sense of adventure to hitchhike across the states and end up in Seattle. And there I caught a boat and went up the Inside Passage and spent a couple seasons fishing in Alaska, mostly Bristol Bay. But passing through Seattle in March, the Midwest is pretty miserable in March. The snow is melting and freezing, and that gorgeous snow cover is filthy and muddy. And I hit Seattle, and you see the glorious mountains and the ocean, and said, "Hey, I'm coming back here." So I did just that, and had a few other things going on for quite a few years. But about a dozen years ago, I jumped into the distilling world. It was just starting to catch on nationally. There were a few St. George, et cetera, around the country that had been doing some great work for a while. But for Washington State, it was brand new, like 2008. Dry Fly Distillery. Worked with the legislators and got some laws changed to kind of open up the arena for all of us. And I looked into production of wine and beer. And when I hit the distilled spirits world, I just was stuck. It's so fun. It's still fun. It's crazy how fun it is. So it is like alchemy. It's just
dangerous and fun.
Yeah. There's all the government's oversight, and there's lots of headaches, of course. Don't want to steer anyone wrong there, but you could take any spirit and work several lifetimes on nuances and variations, and it's just so fun to have that kind of creativity at your fingertips.
That's a good point. It's something I've meant to ask some of our past guests who were distillers. When you decide this is it, and Liz, you can chime in on this too. I mean, when do you decide, you're making something, you go, yeah, this is what I like. This is good. This is what I'm going to sell. When do you ever stop? You think I can improve upon this. You know what I'm talking about? When do you say enough's enough? This is what I'm going with.
Are you talking about, is this like a
spirit
thing?
You mean like a career or the spirit?
No, the spirit. When you're distilling a spirit, you're making it, you age it, you put in you're maturing something, or say it's a gin and you're adding different botanicals. You've seen some gins where they throw everything but the kitchen sink in there. And you think, well, that's a little too much. And then others go, I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm just going to be juniper and shoelaces. That's it. I'm going to do that. And
that kitchen sink filtered idea, though, that could be something. Someone could do that.
Crushed kitchen sink vodka filtering. There you go.
Well, I mean, when do you know as a distiller that this is good? This is good stuff. I'm making good stuff.
Yeah.
Or do you wait till the sales show you, oh, maybe it's not so great? You know
But
what I mean?
I guess I'll build on that too. And I guess backing up a little bit, because Kirby, you have a pretty big art background, no?
Yes, yeah, most of my adult life.
I think that's interesting. And I think building on Marty's question, I'm really curious about, right, so I'm a technical person and you're an artistic person. So just kind of curious on how you did approach the initial R&D and how your art background continues to influence your operation.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily recommend the way I got started. I approached it fairly naive, and it does connect with the art because I was pretty much only interested in the flavor of my product, and the visual presentation was really important, but I should have hired you, Liz, as a consultant to understand the taxes and the business side. I kind of just let that, I don't know if it's fair to call that more of an artistic approach, but right brain versus left brain, which is a theory now thrown out, but I still kind of believe it. It's kind of two approaches. There's some very successful distilleries here in Washington that approached it straight out of the gate as a business. And, like Bill Gates may not be the biggest computer genius in the field, but he's probably the biggest business / computer genius in the field. So there's some of that going on. And then some of us who just focused on the product, and God help us if the market did not like what our palate told us was great. But luckily in our case, it worked out.
But see, now there's a situation that a lot of the current crop over the last 20 years have dealt with, is the fact that they're making the juice. They decide, hey, this is great, I'm going to put this out. And but they have no idea about the marketing end or the bigger business end. And so a lot of times, even if they get a distributor, it just sits there because they don't realize they're in charge of selling it. Distributors are just going to take the orders.
Got that right. At some point, you do have to wake up and realize that's a huge part of your life savings on the line there. And marketing and working the market and being organized in that way is also so important. One thing, like back to your original question, we did a pepper vodka that started out fairly subtle, but we're infusing these beautiful Eastern Washington peppers for like 3 years now to really pull out a rich pepper flavor. And every couple of years, I just bump it up. So now the next version of our pepper vodka is going to be really, really spicy. I've learned in the marketplace too to never dumb anything down for anyone. People are smart. The palates are sophisticated. They may not be able to answer every question detailed about the technology of distilling, but the palates are good out there, and people want good stuff.
Yeah, I always thought one of the biggest, one of the things I've always hated in the past, 15 years or so, is the American style gin, where they pull back and they want to make it. Was it Bombay Sapphire that was known when it first came out as the vodka drinker's gin?
Oh,
and I thought, if you're a vodka drinker, why don't you just drink vodka?
Yeah.
I mean, gin. If you're a gin drinker, drink gin. And so many of them pulled back. Lew and I went to a distillery once together. We were tasting this person's gin. It was right off the still. And we're looking at each other and go, did they give us vodka by mistake?
Oh,
I don't taste anything in here. And
I
the
recall
distillers
somebody
say,
using the word subtle.
yeah,
Which was
yes.
perhaps one of the worst uses of the word subtle I've ever come across.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, there you go. I mean, there's a case too where, that person thought this was the end all be all.
Yeah, I mean, a certain amount of that has just got to come down to, where you are in your life at that time, where you are in your spirits drinking life, where you are that day, even, which is why you should probably get more people involved than just yourself.
Well, now are you going out there and comparing your stuff to others, especially within your market? Is you think that stuff is too strong, but it's popular. So if that stuff is selling and yours is struggling, maybe you should rethink what you're making. You know what I'm talking about? I'm still thinking gin at this point, but goes for whiskey too.
This isn't a gin show. No, I'm kidding.
Sorry, I
I'm not going to do that.
A sip of gin.
Well, I love gin, so thanks, Marty. Yeah.
I love gin too. I'm a ginaholic. I'm like an alcoholic, except with gin. So
Can't get enough of that juniper.
yeah. Give
But
it to me, baby.
Kirby, so speaking of bridging the gap between vodka and gin, right? You're doing some interesting botanical infusions with your vodka line, right? How did you kind of back into those variants?
It was, I think I initially probably have to say I probably got into the distilling world from a love of food, just culinary traditions. And I was much more of a wine drinker before, and now it's all spirits R&D all the time if I'm drinking. So, I think it's really important to kind of, honor your palate as you're getting involved. And some of the culinary traditions of rosemary in pasta sauce and rosemary on a barbecue chicken on a bed of rosemary is like one of my all-time favorite foods. So hence we did a rosemary vodka. And that was one of the times where I did have to pare back till it finally sang to my palate. Because you can overdo anything, and that's how I usually start in life. So, but I think you'll probably see those as distillery releases only going forward.
Okay.
I think you can. Well, you would tell me more, but I think you can confuse your brand out in the marketplace if you do too much. So going forward, I think we're going to pare down what we sell nationally anyway. Keep our whiskey program going for sure, and then a couple of our gins.
That was one of the things I saw when I was looking at your website prepping for the show. You've done some aging in wine barrels, your whiskey, but not fortified wine barrels. Can you talk more about that? Because that's what people usually think of when they think of wine and whiskey.
Yeah, well, we got excited about just sort of celebrating some of our local wineries. Quilceda Creek makes an amazing Cabernet Sauvignon, and DeLille Cellars as well. So we initially started with, and it was fun to be associated with Quilceda Creek with their 100-point cab that you can't buy no matter who you are unless you've been on a list forever. So
but apparently you can get the barrels, is it?
Yeah. We let them drain every little drop out. Yeah. But the winemakers were so great to work with. They call us up. Okay, we're going to empty 2 barrels. We won't sulfur them if you promise to pick them up today and get whiskey in them today. They didn't want any of their barrels floating around out there, polluting their brand with some bacteria.
Right.
So initially it was like, okay, we want some of the influence from the wine, maybe a little color or some sort of note. So we got that to a very subtle degree, But what we really found, and a little more research later, of course, it made perfect sense. It was all about the French oak. What that did to our whiskey was just exquisite and so elegant. I think another whole 2 years of aging in an additional barrel is going to like deepen and enrich your whiskey, but instead baking spices, and it's just a brighter, more lively whiskey after the French oak has its way with it. So that was so fun.
You did a 2-year finishing then?
Yeah, so 5 or 6 years in American oak to create a bourbon, and then a finishing in the wine barrel.
You should check with all those wineries you got along the coast. See if any of them have some Takai, this Hungarian oak.
Mm-hmm.
You want spicings. Oh my God, the cooking spices on those barrels are amazing.
Yeah,
they're gorgeous.
Like as the whiskey matures, so does the distillery, and we're just getting to a point where we can breathe again. You know, it's a struggle to make this business work, and that kind of experimentation is something I'm really looking forward to. Yeah, we did this cool blend with where is it? There it is. With,
it gets us every time.
Yeah,
over here. I think you'll enjoy it.
Dentist in reverse.
I think you really enjoyed the label. It's really nice.
But it's super fun. It's a blend of whiskeys from 3 different countries, and so there's a Highland Scotch in there, and a Canadian rye, and then our bourbon. So I'd like to continue that series of blends with other whiskeys and our bourbon. It's not that easy to pull off, at least for me it wasn't. But we took the Canadian rye and don't tell any other distilleries. I hope they're not listening. But
no,
he's listening.
Just between us.
Canadian rye and the Highland Scotch got 3 extra years of aging after we purchased it in used American oak barrels. So some of the notes that are already bourbon-like and in our bourbon are now in the whiskeys we're blending with, and that made it happen.
Were they aged together? Were they married together so separate?
Yeah, but another thought I had would be that would be a cool idea, because the marrying tank before bottling is so influential.
That's why I said it, Kirby. Yeah. It's a cool idea. Yeah, just throwing that out at you.
Not even charging for that idea today.
Yeah, we don't.
Information. Yeah,
this is what we do here.
Idea Central, right here.
This is like the reverse of the Shark Tank.
We fly out.
We give them ideas.
Yeah, have you ever thought about this?
We fling ideas out there like frisbees at a Beach Boy concert.
I mean, there's no big
thought about aging your whiskey in wood. A lot of guys are trying that. It's a new thing, but
yeah, right. Match made in heaven, perhaps.
Now, Kirby, you've expanded your distillery.
Boom. Okay.
Now, where did that come from? I mean, was business so good they had all this some do-re-mi, or did you get investors? Or I noticed that on your website there was a donation link.
Oh, that's more for charity donation, and we're not doing charity.
Like one of those charities, the Martin Duffy Foundation charity.
Okay, we'll put you on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I guess the biggest catalyst of this change was losing our lease.
That'll do it.
Yeah. All you had to do was kind of stand outside our distillery and peer around. We're the only 1-story building for many, many blocks, if not miles around. So Capitol Hill in Seattle had developed to the point where it didn't make sense for our very reasonable landlord to want to move on and sell the building and develop it.
So they didn't even want the building. They wanted the footprint. They just wanted Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
The dirt on Capitol Hill is worth more than any 1-story building could possibly be worth.
Yes. Got it.
So we started looking around, and it was kind of fun looking, and we looked in a lot of industrial parks and finally came upon this great space I just call it like a maker's building. There's architectural metal workers, cabinet makers, fine furniture builders. The list goes on and on. So that attracted me to the building itself. And yeah, we were able to swing 12,000 square feet for the same price as 4,500 was in the.
Oh wow!
What's that gallery we see up there behind you? Is that original, or did you build it? Because it looks really cool.
Oh, back there?
Yeah, the windows.
Yeah, that's we have clear story windows that raises the roof from 17 feet to 25 feet in one
Nice.
section,
Oh
which
wow!
is perfect for the
Columns.
for the distill columns.
Yeah.
Because they were custom built to within 2 inches of our last ceiling. So it's nice to just have had a little bit of wiggle room when we were installing.
It just looks really good.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I hear about aesthetics, so I love this place. Yeah, and then I have an office that's built up overlooking the production area.
Oh, nice.
Big 8-foot windows. I need a laser pointer to talk to the staff.
Great. I hope you're not aiming at their eyes.
No, there'll be no laser
So all of
involved.
a sudden, yeah, where's Kirby? Oh, son of a gun!
But with the expansion, we also had the ability to lease in a more commercial area of Georgetown, is the neighborhood we're in now. And we're putting in a restaurant and bar, kind of Oola-centric cocktails and very local beers and some wine, and then an event space and another bottle shop. So
Cool.
I think the idea is, again, getting the word out is so important. And
that's all opening up pretty soon, right?
yeah, weeks or months. Yeah, by the end of August, everything should be open. And the bottle shop, which has a small cocktail program attached to it, next week, the 13th, we should have that. A soft opening. So
Okay.
only special people that listen to your show will hear about it. And I love others.
All
And
my people are special.
Yeah,
There's-
hey,
link to all of that. So the green rectangle at the bottom of the screen. So check that out. Give that a click. And if you're in the Seattle, Washington area, for sure, go swing by that. But you're distributed nationally, or what are your markets?
we're about a dozen states. The Northeast is a little pocket for us, like New York, New Jersey, Connecticut,
Nice.
Rhode Island, Massachusetts, DC, kind of that arena. And then we just opened up in Oklahoma, and we couldn't be happier. One of the things we find as a distillery is, well, of course, everybody wants to be in New York City, and the competition is tough.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of the bartenders are connected to brands already. So if they're not a personal rep of that brand, they have friends who are involved. So it's really difficult. So we find maybe a little bit around the fringes helps us, where maybe these accounts are not getting seen.
I think we've said it before on this show, but I used to experience all the time with DIAGEO brands, the secondary markets. They love you because they just don't get the love.
I never see you.
And
Yeah.
especially the drink industry folks, the bartenders and servers. You go in, staff trainings. They might say, "Wow, you're the first person who's come and done the staff training here."
Yeah, that's
person give me a Johnny Walker pin.
Yeah, no, exactly true. And then California is a big market for us, both Southern and Northern California.
Well, that was something I was thinking. You have no. Yes, Liz mentioned no ice cube trays. The Johnny Walker ice cube tray idea I had years ago didn't
Scotch.
I couldn't really make it work. It would have cost me a fortune.
Yeah.
But people have been all over it, like right on rice. They've been all over. Anyways, I was gonna say, now you're in Washington State. You got Oregon, you got California, you have Colorado. All 4 of those states are huge. I have a huge number of distilleries. I mean, Washington, I want to say, is either 3 or 4 after California and New York.
I think you're right.
Texas.
Number 1 for quite a few years. But
yeah, you were. Yeah. But how do you compete even in your own market? That has to be tough. Do you have a team that works for your brand?
Well, yeah, Alan, who who works here at the distillery. He's the managing director and head of sales, and he has 25 years in the distribution game. So that is so helpful. He speaks the lingo. He knows how to approach accounts and the salespeople. And I learned early on, when you're working a market, you're wanting to open accounts, but you're really wanting to bond with the salespeople that your distributors has on staff. So making those connections has been really valuable. And we have a great distributor in Washington State, so that's super helpful. And really, God bless the big brands, but they're kind of our main competitor. I don't feel so competitive with other local craft distilleries. There's sort of room for us all to grow market share side by side before we ever feel like we're bumping each other off. I think most accounts, if they love your whiskey, they'll bring it in, even if they love the neighboring distillery's whiskey as well. So, yeah, we work pretty well together. We've had some issues with getting our boiler permit and getting that set up, and that's the heart of the distillery. So we've got a local brewery helping out, and we've got a couple other local distilleries helping out to kind of see us through that 8-month transition of getting that thing back online. So yeah, I'd say mostly we work really well together and fight the big guys in a very friendly, competitive way.
You guys have a great annual event that I always look forward going to, but obviously haven't been able to these last 2 years, is Proof, which is put on by the Washington Distillers Guild. That's going to happen next year, as far as you know?
We will rise again. It's our most important event, and everybody loves it. It's just, as many medical professionals will tell you, it's not really post-COVID yet, and all the planning needs to happen like 6 months before the event. So couldn't pull it off this year, but we fully intend to next year have that back up and running. It's worthy of a plane fare and a destination event for sure.
When is it?
Kind of the end of the summer.
End of the summer. Okay.
Not yet, but that's what I think we're looking at. Early fall, end of summer.
Oh, this year?
No.
Oh, next year.
No, just in general.
Yeah.
No, usually it's the. I have to correct in there, Kirby, because I.
Oh, please do. Yes.
It's usually the first Saturday of July.
Oh, okay.
Because Marty had to make all his arrangements every year.
At the end of the summer?
Yeah. So middle of the summer, this little beach bunny.
I wonder why I set up that last year and nobody else was there.
Yeah.
I'll call you next time.
There you go. All part of the service.
Yeah. Exactly.
Awesome.
Kirby, with the relocation, so you also put in additional equipment, additional capacity, or was it just a relocation?
Well, we had recently purchased a large Vendome still, which you're seeing the columns of behind me. Yeah. So we kind of tooled up, not knowing we would have to move. So we just bought a bunch of big, heavy stuff right before the move. So it just was serendipitous. It worked out. Yeah. What we did add, which is really nice, is a a capacity to store barrels here as well. So we have
Great.
a couple hundred barrels here, and then our main barrel facility is in our international district, just a mile or so away. But it opened up some space there, so that was a big shift for us. So like 2017 on, we're storing a lot of those barrels here, so we can keep a closer eye on things as they get to be 5 and 6 years old. And then bigger temperature fluctuation here in the distillery, certainly, than our other facility. So,
what was your barrel output, say 12 years compared to now?
12 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh boy, we started out so small. Like we did like a dozen barrels, then maybe 18, and then 26. But even now we're so small. We had great plans to really grow that, but without a boiler, you can only ask so much of your friends. So our goal is to be like 300 to 500 barrels a year. Not crazy huge, but as you all probably know, it's thousands of dollars out of pocket expense to put a barrel away for 5 years. So we have to kind of watch our capital when we grow our program. But I'd say now it's just over 100 barrels.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that Liz has been hoarding barrels by the tens of thousands. So
all of that
doesn't even know
footprint
that.
in New York City Metro. Tons of space here.
they're all stacked up. Some of them are
Alongside every subway track.
3, 4 stories high.
Storage is no issue.
Yeah.
There's so many urban distilleries now, and used to was you didn't really do that. I mean, back in the early days you did, and then everything went out in the country, and now a lot of small distillers have started up in the city again. But there's, as you're saying, there are drawbacks. God knows, especially when your neighborhood catches on.
Yeah.
What's the up and downsides of having your distillery right in a city?
Well, we had talked just exactly what we're doing. I had identified Waitsburg, Washington, which is the name of our bourbon, Waitsburg Bourbon, as a lovely 2,500 person little town to start a distillery in. And the more we researched and the more we looked into it, we realized we just needed a little more population density to build a brand, to start from zero. And when we started, you were not allowed an offsite tasting room. So I think it makes a lot more sense now to grab some real estate out of the city. Like you're saying, I think that model, again, you'll see more of that. The hardest part in this business, I think, is, well, not the hardest part, but one of the hard parts is the real estate. You have this distillery and your rent keeps going up, and then they tear the building down, and that kind of insecurity is tough. So if you could go and build a pole barn on some inexpensive land somewhere and have an offsite tasting room in the city to help grow the brand, if I was a consultant, that's kind of what I would be recommending to people, at least in my world, in Washington State. It would make a lot of sense.
Well, to Lew's point, he had there are so many urban distilleries here in Chicago got kind of a rude awakening once the city had an awakening and realized, they're storing a bunch of flammable liquid in the middle of a very congested little tight neighborhood. Is that a good idea? Little thing called the Chicago Fire.
Yeah, it is Chicago.
About 170 years ago.
Subject. It's true. Yeah.
So they came up with a whole bunch of, they made some. Everyone had to make some concessions, and a lot of guys had to start storing this stuff away from the distillery. But then there's some distilleries that what you were mentioning before, was it Wakefield?
Pittsburgh?
Wakesburg?
Oh,
See?
that's town. Yeah. But let's see. We have Woodinville Whiskey. I know has some offsite barrel aging facilities in Eastern Washington where they had to build like a big lake in case there was a fire.
Oh, wow.
And the booze, I mean, all the barrels broke and the flammable liquid went somewhere.
Oh, jeez.
Big catchment.
On top of the water.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Liz.
No, I was just going to mention, well, speaking of urban versus more remote, I think, the farm distillery model is becoming, a pretty attractive model, from a consumer perspective, hyper local. And I guess it goes back to, whether or not you're really focused on an on-premise or off-premise model. Some of those farm distilleries, they've got that hyper local, estate distillery sort of model, but they're not focusing on, people coming, getting foot traffic and people seeing their branding as they're walking to work or, what have you. So I think it's probably a lot of different decisions that go into, both types of models.
Yeah, there's so many expenses if you want to take your brand nationally. So that's a different model. We have San Juan Distillery up in the San Juan Islands, and they're happy. They're very tiny footprint. They sell their product at a nice price, and they sell out everything they can make. Yeah. And I think were profitable long before we were.
Well, I remember when Blum Brothers, I think they were only open a year and a half. And, they're in Galena, Illinois, which is the home of U.S. General Grant.
Oh, yeah.
And his house used to be the #1 tourist attraction there. And then they surpassed him.
Eclipsed it.
Yes.
Wow.
But they're open I think 15 months. And so they put out a 15-month-old whiskey with Grant's picture on it. Because it coincided with the end of the Civil War. There was some kind of 150 years or something like that. So it all came together nicely. And they had a line going down this road just to buy they sold out in like 3 hours.
What a dream. Yeah.
But I always thought, you mentioned before, you have an event space.
Yes. Yeah.
At the new distillery. I mean, I think that's so smart because event spaces, some of the most successful distilleries I know of, who don't have wide distribution, but they can bring people in,
right?
With events. And now you have an audience, say it's 200 people, and everybody might want to bring home. If half of them want to take home a bottle of your whiskey, that's 100 bottles, baby.
Our cocktails all evening. So
right.
Yeah, I'm getting aware of the brand. Yeah. So yeah, I think you're right. I think that'll be a big part of our growth. And like most distilleries, we sell mostly in state.
You're in Chicago though.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, Schmier is having the Indie Spirit Expo in Chicago again this year.
All right.
November 1st. Come back.
Okay.
I won't say in style because I'm not there. But, but it's a Schmier production, so just be ready.
Okay.
Will he have it here in New York as well, or just Chicago?
No, he was going to. I think New York is just too much right now. There wasn't enough, and
I've said that a lot.
He usually does it in conjunction with, or right around the time of Bar Convent, which is coming up next month, and I don't think he had the time or the wherewithal. As far as I know, Chicago might be the only one because there's no Tales of the Cocktail, right?
Right.
As far as I know. And that's his other one. Then he do one in Vegas. I mean, there's the WSWA thing. But even that was Schmier Productions. It basically travels around the back of a van.
Impressive.
So yeah, and I guess speaking of consumer engagement, what's the? I saw on your website you have a whiskey club. Sounded like you had.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Oh, how's that work?
It's a group of kind of passionate customers that we just sort of thought we need to do something a little more special for these people. So we have a club called the Oola Society, and it's all based around our whiskey program, and we do special releases quarterly for just them. So it's fun projects for me to come up with, and so far they've been very well received, the different whiskeys I came up. And then we're also creating a library of those whiskeys so we can use them as special releases 10 years from now. And yeah, on the 18th, we have a local pitmaster barbecue dude who's awesome and charming, and he's going to do a big brisket for the crew, and everyone can bring a +1, and we'll have a barbecue at the production facility for them.
You should have a Lew Bryson celebrity barbecue.
Yes.
Oh yeah, you let me know. Yeah,
Right on the spit.
Yeah.
If you're ready to hop on a plane, I'm ready to buy a ticket, Lew.
He's a
That would
spit
be
master.
amazing. Yeah.
All right.
So that club is just pure fun.
Now, do you guys do anything with the other distilleries, like a little distillery trail thing? Since Washington has so many distilleries, do you guys have what do they call that? A passport?
Yeah, there is a distillery trail, and I think that's one of the things now we'll be able to promote a little stronger. But it's been out there; it's all online, and people can find it. But it needs to be a little bit more promoted, and I think it would be a good time to also do some small events. Maybe 3 distilleries get together at one distillery and have a special event sort of thing. But and again, that I think is because a lot of us are now 9 to 11 years old in the Seattle area, and that allows us just a little wiggle room. We have.
Well, it's a nice way for you all to kind of come together and support each other.
Yeah, like so many industries, we're all working the same hours, so you can go a long time without sharing a dram with some of your good friends in the industry. So that needs to change.
Well, you just got to get big enough, like the guys in Kentucky,
Right?
where those guys meet up for dinner. Some of the big
What a
names.
team. Yeah.
Guys on Isla, they get together like once a month with their wives. They'll all meet together and
Or husbands.
Is there a woman distiller on Isla, Liz?
I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. Or that's right.
All bases.
There could be a guy with a husband nowadays. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I'm such a caveman. Hey, now one thing that's been burning in my mind, this distillery name, Oola. Why just stop short? Was it because Liz Rhodes has a patent on the catchphrase "Ooh la la"?
Yeah.
What she says every time she samples someone's spirit, it's good.
Huh?
Yeah, that's the sensory scale. It's 1 to 10, and then ooh la la.
Oh, I hope to get there someday. Well, I had the greatest German Shepherd at the time I opened the distillery, and her name was Oola. So, so it's named in honor of the greatest companion I'll ever use. Truth be told, it's a name that I love that it honors her, but it also visually just sort of clean, and the double O is graphic and, rolls off the tongue. And immediately people did go to Ooh La La, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a little cheesy to name your distillery Oola La, but if somebody wants to mumble that after a sip, that's okay with me.
Well, I'll tell them if they do say ooh la la, they owe Liz $1 for every time they say it.
Pretty spendy.
Pretty good royalty. Yeah.
That's what you put down. That's what I heard. That's the word on the street. That's what Huggy Bear told me.
Huggy Bear.
Yeah.
I gotta stop talking to that Huggy Bear. He's going around spreading rumors.
He's my source.
To your point, visually, it's because it's short and punchy. I'm sure that people catch that on a shelf space as well.
Yeah. Yep. And we've heard from some very wise people that maybe the brand name is not quite big enough on our labels. So that's another change you may see.
Okay.
I get beat over the head with a 2x4 by smart people long enough, and I listen. So when we run out of labels, the next group will probably have the brand name a little bigger and prominent. But yes, yeah, and it was designed a little shorter bottle, so hopefully it gets in the front in the back bar instead of in the back. Little apothecary look, which when we were opening made a ton of sense. Now we're trying to go for a little lighter bottle. We have that big, heavy glass layer on the bottom, and it's not so ecological for shipping. So our next bottle will be a similar look to not confuse people, but get rid of that extra weight will be important.
Are they all uniformed? All your spirits? Same bottle? Label pretty similar?
Let's see, we have a flagship line, we call it, which is the clear spirits. And then we also have a line, we just flipped the name because I don't have that many ideas. So Oola backwards is a Lew. We have a line of spirits that were designed for like a premium well placement, but we really didn't dumb down the juice at all. But we used much less expensive packaging and in a full liter. So that line has been really good for the distillery. So that's in a 1 liter simple bottle with a screw top. Feedback from bartenders, that's what they wanted. And now that's available off-prem as well. And then our whiskey bottle is in a separate style that's not too different, but a little bit taller, set apart a little bit.
If you have a Lew labels ever, make sure you're not sending it over to France, because that will have a completely different connotation to them.
Oh, really?
I'm going to a Lew?
I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I guess in some Arabic languages, it's also means potato. So if you're doing that's kind of confusing.
Yeah.
That's what Lew Bryson means in Arabic.
Oh,
I am a potato. I am a jelly donut.
Out of the earth, yes. Well rooted. Yeah. Love it.
You should give out a jelly donut with each one of your books, Lew.
That's a good idea.
Which, by the way, Kirby, you're getting about 100 of these signed by Lew, along with, I guess, 100 donuts.
You can tell.
Yeah.
Any particular type of jelly, or is it
Gotta be raspberry. Gotta be
That's
raspberry.
what I'm thinking.
Gotta be raspberry. Okay.
Not that schnozberry shit. You know, it never really tastes like schnozberries.
Isn't that just Willy Wonka? Is there really schnozberries?
No.
Okay.
No.
You never know. You hear about I was in Ireland picking.
You hear about it all the time.
What were those? Falconberries? Or something. It sounded really obscene. And they looked like bunny droppings, which is what I picked up most of the time.
There you are.
And I went foraging for them.
Some of each.
We get wine berries around here, which are delicious.
Oh, wow!
Yeah, they're
called grapes?
No, they're wine berries. They're like little raspberries, but the problem is they're incredibly fragile, so they just fall apart if you touch them more than just very gently. So they're not really a commercial crop, but kind of. Just hold a basket under it and shake it.
Like
they're good. They're really good.
Oh, cool.
No.
What's that?
I was like pomegranate seeds, kind of just.
No, I mean they're built more like they are a drupe.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Yes, but they're almost exactly that color.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And Kirby, you have the Marionberry.
Yeah.
So it's Washington D.C. Don't they have the Marionberry?
Yeah, there's one there anyway.
Wow.
No, he's not there anymore. That's right.
That's a nice callback.
Huckleberries, salal Yeah, we have lots of fun things to forage for sure.
And do you use that in the spirits?
We're using huckleberry and spruce tip in one of our gins that we produce. So
Nice.
yeah, and that's another thing that I hope to do more of. Salal berries is such a esoteric, but really a cool berry, and lovely color. Be fun. I'm not going national with these again, but I think
Sure.
it's nice to kind of enliven your local crowd with some special releases and give people a reason to come to the distillery rather than go to the local grocery store only. So that's something we'll do more of as well.
That's
You know,
fun.
one of the things I think of when I think of Seattle, besides beer and salmon, is coffee. Do you do anything with coffee?
We did a beautiful infused, whiskey.
Oh, really?
With coffee, and not like a cold brew infused, which I haven't really liked those I've tried, but actual heavy dark roast, very coarsely ground, probably even coarser than a French press ground. That turned out lovely. We haven't taken it to production yet. Again, it's so fun to be creative, but at the same time, I'm trying to pare down what we're offering. But you'll see there will be something because, our distillery runs on coffee as much as anything.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Well,
That's awesome.
That's the other thing, other than just not knowing when to stop as far as the spirit you're creating, but the number of spirits. You go to Todd Leopold's distillery.
Oh my gosh!
Denver, and he has an enormous menu of spirits you can try, and they don't even allow you to try them all. You have to limit yourself to like 5 or 6, and there's about 24, 28 spirits. And then when I was at Glendalough in Ireland, I went to their distillery, and Geraldine Kavanagh, she's the one who forages. Well, she had all these kind of Hinckley and Schmidt bottles full of spirit and umpteen different combinations of botanicals. And Brian Fagan, who owns the place, was going, I'm telling them, we can only put out so many gins. You gotta limit that.
Yeah.
So how do you stop? I mean, the ideas come. How do you stop? When do you say enough's enough?
I think there'll never be enough, and I think the answer is keep it tiny. With all these extra releases, so you don't. So you can't overwhelm your production people time and it again and again. The other thing is small distilleries that are into foraging have to be careful. Like all bay leaves are not culinary bay leaves. All juniper is not to be ingested. Just go down.
What you're extracting. Yep.
So do your research carefully.
Yeah, she was a botanist, so that was her deal.
You know what the mushroom foragers say. All mushrooms are edible. Once.
You can ingest anything, right?
It's the only mushroom joke I have. I'm sorry, I'm done now.
I have superpowers. I can jump off tall buildings once.
Right.
Sage has a lot of thuyon in it too. I know a lot of distillers playing around with sage, but coincidentally, it has a lot of thuyon. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
We had a number of comments from the audience. Doug Piper says hello.
Awesome.
And Brad Krause. Hey, Brad.
He's from Bogota this time.
Bogota.
Usually he's Panama. He's in Bogota this week.
Getting around.
That's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Cam Orchard says Three Shores is amazing.
Oh, he's our pit master. So
Oh, cool.
this is a love fest between the two.
Good. Mutually, yeah, awesome. And Mark Gowdy says, great chat, but gotta go catch the rest later. And please do, Mark.
That's right. You can catch it later on Zavvy.co or on YouTube.
Or my website.
Or Liz's website. So, I mean, everyone goes to Liz's website. I know. I've been hearing quacking.
Are you hearing that too?
People out there, do you hear quacking? Yeah.
Sorry, Marty.
A quacking noise.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of the Three Shores again, which is a great name. I love that.
Oh, good.
And if you mention this, pardon me, I usually just blank out sometimes. What was the ratio? If you have Irish, Canadian, and Scotch, I mean Irish, no, not Irish, Canadian, Scotch, and bourbon. What percentage?
Yeah, I tried everything, but of course, even a lightly peated Highland Scotch is going to be kind of the dominant flavor if you do equal parts. So there's only about 14% of the Scotch in there, and then I think probably 20% of the rye, and then the rest is bourbon. It's mostly the bourbon that balance seemed to work the best. You want the Scotch, of course, because it's in there. You really want that smoky note, or I did, but you don't want that to be the only thing you taste. Then
right.
It's just another Scotch.
Yeah, you don't want to overpower. But you had it was a Highland Scotch, right? Highland single malt?
Yes. Yeah. And the distillery has to remain unnamed due to the middle person involved. They didn't want me to divulge the name of the. I'll honor that. But
they probably stole it. That's what I'm thinking.
I was going to say they probably blew a hole in the side of the warehouse and just grabbed it.
Yeah, that's what I would have done.
Happens a lot.
Just one of those drills. The night watchman slipping a few.
Is that the plot of Charlie McLean's movie?
I was just going to say they smuggled out 9 brew bottles.
Yeah,
right?
I think they got through the wall and
perfect.
Fucking stole it out of the cask. Why not use an Islay whiskey then? I mean, yeah, you don't want the smoke to be overpowering and the peat, earthy qualities, but at the same time, you can use a lot less of it if it's a little more intense. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be a cool variation. I find that if I'm drinking Scotch, it is usually once in a while. I love just the smoke bombs, but usually it's a more subtle Scotch. So it's probably just kind of cheating and starting with Scotch that I loved and a rye that I loved, and of course I love our bourbon. So that's probably why it worked out that way for the first one. But
well, now you've had a couple of peated whiskeys over there on the West Coast. You had McCarthy's down in Oregon. Clear Creek did that, and then I believe one of the guys up in Victoria in Canada is doing one. Then of course you have Westland.
Westland,
Yep.
right?
Now, would you consider doing a Washington peat? So an American peat. Oh, good. Solid all American peat.
I totally want to do that. Right now we have a smoky whiskey where a local barbecue place smoked some barley for us.
No,
So
that's American. My
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Right.
Mesquite
That's all.
or what type of wood?
Yeah.
Yeah, they used cherry wood, apple wood, and mesquite. So a big variety. And we just gave them carte blanche. For the first one, I didn't really even know what to recommend. So it's 4 years now. So in another year or so, we'll know where that's going. And I'm guessing it may be blended with our bourbon. Last time I tasted it, it was really smoky. But I love smoked meats and smoked cheeses. So yeah, I think smoke and beverages really is a fun thing to work on. And then single malt too. Yeah, smoked single malts are in our future.
That'd be cool. I mean, I love what I've tasted so far. I really haven't tasted a bad one yet in the U.S.
Nice.
Folks who have done it, like Colin Keegan down at. I
you-
love his Colt Keegan. It's really
Yeah.
good.
Me too. Yeah, yeah. He does a good job on most everything.
And Lou and Liz, can I ask you guys, and Kirby too, if you've noticed this? I noticed that if I opened a bottle of, say, Lagavulin, very heavily peated single malt Scotch from the Isle of Islay, and if I were not to finish it all, say, in one night, but put it aside and return to it, say, a couple of months later, I always find that, especially if it's about half full, that heavy peatiness that you first get once you open up that bottle, it dissipates a little bit. I mean, it's still there, but it's not, man, when you first open up a bottle of, say, that or Lafroig, I mean, it fills the room. Yeah, you guys ever noticed that it's not as powerful?
I have not noticed it that I can recall it or comment on it. No.
I'm going to send you a bottle of the most expensive Lagavulin I can find, just because that's how I roll.
Send me three.
All right,
because I want to test it correctly.
You will get that in 30 years once I can afford that.
Yeah.
Well, Kirby, it's been a real treat having you on. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, that was fun.
Sharing your mind.
Yeah, it's an honor. Yeah.
Best of luck with the new place too.
Yeah, seriously.
Thanks. Yeah, I hope if you find your way out here. And
for sure.
Well, please spend some hours with us.
Oh, you bet.
Yeah.
Well, next time there's proof. That's when I come out.
Okay. You'll be well rewarded with the VIP treatment.
Of course.
Before we go, just want to kick off and tell you who we're going to have on next week. So we're actually going to be traveling virtually to Sweden, and we're going to have Henrik Molin of Finn Spirits on next week with Henry Price, who's the distributor here in the U.S. For their whiskeys. So please come back next week, and again, we'll be chatting about Swedish whiskey.
Yeah, baby.
Cool.
Swedish.
Thanks again, Kirby.
Kirby, thank you.
Yeah.
Good luck with the expansion.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kirby. Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Bye, kids.
See you next week, everybody.
Bye-bye.